What up, y'all? It's your boy Ben here, and do you know what time it is? That's right, it is the meta report coming live to you right now, so that way you know exactly what decks are the best to be playing right now, so that way not only can you take it to tournaments if you like, but also go into a rank to reach up to the highest tier that you want to aim for. As always, y'all, if you like the content, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell button, and we're going to go ahead and dive right on in. I've been asking this week if you've been able to catch up with some of these videos, just kind of like what's been your new favorite deck so far, and kind of right now still experimenting, but I'm really loving Buzzwole and Pheromosa, but I've gotten a little taste of Savali and just been trying different shells with that. So let me know in the comments down below, what new cards are you testing out? And so far we're having 3 major tournaments, Ursi Days being one of them. We're having another one where we're seeing from Frog EX Weekly Cup, and we're seeing something from Pocket Legends as well too. So just checking out the kind of the meta games, what is standing out from these 3, and then we're gonna dive into each of them, talk through them, so that way you have like a good sense of what you should be playing. Up first is the deck that took the first place in the Frog EX tournament. So kind of getting the first major win here with a Titanal, Savali, Cranidos, and Rampardos. So Savali Rampardos deck. This deck is really good here in the sense that you're able to get consistency going for your Rampardos, something that was really needed because you don't have a fossil searcher yet, right? So with Gladion in here, this being a 6-card package, and really anywhere that you put it in allows you to search for your Savalis, for your type nulls, thinning the decks with your Pokeball, thinning your decks with your Professor's Research, and then now you know here again to find it. So you're more likely than not bricking, which means that you're hitting for 100 or you're hitting for 130. The addition of red here allows you to hit heavier into those EX Pokemon, and the ones who are non-EX are really going to go down to a Savali or to a Rampardos. So there's really not a lot that can withstand the barrage between these Pokemon, and for the mere fact that they have to go through 3 of them as well too, really puts pressure on your opponent and really puts them in kind of have their backs turning if they're not quickly dealing with like the basic forms, right? Like they're not quickly dealing with the type nulls, or they're not quickly dealing with the skull fossils. Letting your opponents letting you get to Savali and Rampardos usually means danger for going against you. Up next, we have the deck list that is leading the charge in the Ursi Days tournament. 8-0, a completely undefeated deck right here with a Buzzwole EX, Pheromosa, and Celesteela, and then you're building up that through Erica, Professor's Research, Lucamine, Guzma, Cyrus, Mars, Pokeball, the Beastite, Leaf Cape, and Repel here. What's really strong about this, again, is the flexibility of having 2 Celesteelas in this deck, which means you can have just one Pheromosa and just one Buzzwole EX. Getting your Pheromosa to attack for 20 and softening up the bench wherever you so choose, and then your Buzzwole gets online pretty quickly after that. Once your one Buzzwole is online, you can retreat the Buzzwole to the back using one Celesteela's ability, and then put the Buzzwole right back into the active spot, re-enabling your big beat on that following turn, disregarding that restriction, using the second Celesteela's ability, which is the Ultra Thrusters, which is really awesome as a cool workaround to get around that, because you get to use the ability twice as long as you have 2 Celesteelas there. The Pheromosa, if this gets knocked out, Lucamine allows you to quickly just jet this up. So like, let's say you have Pheromosa, 1 energy, Buzzwole 1 energy, they knock it out on that following turn. Lucamine puts that second grass energy here. Then it's your turn, you throw out a third one, and then you're going. So it just adds a little bit of consistency. If there's like a quick and early knockout, that your Buzzwole is ready and charged online. That's really cool here. And what's really great is if you really need to and you're running into those Oricorio decks, Celesteela can be that answer for you as well too. So there's a lot of good answers here in terms of what you're trying to do, but you also have a lot of flexibility and a lot of mobility because of the Celesteela, and this is also a very powerful effect that's been unlocked for this new archetype that's been introduced into the game. Here is another variation of it that also went undefeated in the Ursa Day tournament. They went 6-0-2, and then again, it's just instead of one Pheromosa, two Pheromosas, they have a Kartana mix it to here with kind of like the core cards of everything else is all the same, and so you're just kind of deciding what do you want, really, right? Like, do you want the 40 damage? Do you want the flexibility of being able to attack the backline at the same time, knowing that you're doing less damage to the active spot, and really just making your Osiris just enabling it that much more. I like the Pheromosa in here. I played this with just Kartanas, but having the reach into the backline is pretty good. So I think I'm more of a fan of this because I'm guaranteed really just to make sure that I'm attacking the backline and making my Cyrus all that much better. But this is nothing to scoff at either, because 40 damage to the front, especially when you're going second and you have energy advantage, it really puts your opponent in that tough spot. As we continue to look into the meta, we have Giratina, Tapu Lele, Magnezone. This is one of the decks that started to premiere in of itself towards the end of the last meta with our last set here. Why am I already blanking on the words? But with our last art, and so this is very interesting because you're running only Psychic, which is, again, when you have Magnezone, you have that flexibility in that you have one energy just for the Tapu Lele, which means you can then focus all of your Psychic energy on the Giratina EX on those off chances where you're not enabled, or you don't have Tapu Lele on first draw. Being able to run Psychic means that you are attacking with the Giratina immediately and don't have to worry about drawing energy for your Magnezone, because you can do Volt Charge before you do this ability here for Giratina. So overall, really strong attacks here. You kind of really want to go 1-1 and then finishing off with your Giratina here in best case scenario. That's how they kind of get through their 3 Pokemon when your opponents are going into you. But overall, there's just a lot of good damage here. The Repel just to reach out and then possibly do like Repel Guzma or Repel Pokemon Center Leading. There are, still very strong basic Pokemons that are out there in the meta. We just saw the Ultra Beast deck there, and that could really put you in this place, or even going against that Savali Rampardos deck, where if you like push back or repel the Savali and force the Fossil up, you then immediately stop that Rampardos from going up there. So Repel has been a really cool item here. Really like the fact that it's only on basics just to make sure that they tone it down. There's still very much room for Sabrina all around, but the item into a supporter on the same turn always still feels really good. Garchomp and Rampardos, just again, it just feels like if you're running fighting energy, you definitely just want to pair it up with Rampardos, right? Like the Rampardos is just a really good synergistic mon here. It's a stage 2 non-EX that for 1 energy hits 130, and there's nothing much better than that. This is also another deck where you get to start off with your Gibble and Gibble only. I personally don't know if I want to do the fighting one, maybe because we're starting to see a little bit more lightning decks out there with the introduction of Tapu Koko EX, and with especially the lightning cord Pokemon tool, or electrical cord Pokemon tool. However, I think you still go dragon here. There are more grass decks, as we've seen with the Ultra Beast, and so having a weakness already that's going to start off with that, if you could avoid it, I mean, hey, let's do that. So, but we're seeing here everything else I really like. The Lily here for each of one of those. The power in this Garchomp EX and Rampardos deck is that if you get that rare candy and you're going first, you're hitting anything and anywhere pretty hard, pretty fast, right? 50 to anywhere on the active or on the bench is really strong, or hitting for 130, you're clearing things out that's in front of you. And the only way that you don't is if it's one of these high legendary basic EXs, but then at that point, you're attacking for 130 with no drawback and not losing 50 HP because you did knock them out. So you still have 150 HP for them to go through. So this is good. This is good. This is really one of those decks if you can get your rare candies, so that way you can get into it much faster. But even without the rare candies, you still have some consistencies where you're playing your stage 1 for both of these Pokemon, so that way you can get them. And this is like really good overall. Up next, we have Darktina, y'all. It's the deck that goes nowhere. It is the deck that goes nowhere. The only thing that you really do is just play around with the other cards that come into this. And I think one of the things where people have tried to experiment and just realize that it's just better to go this way is that even with through Oricorio, you have potions, you have Rocky Helmet, you have Pokemon Cetera Lady, you have Darkrai Chip, you have Giant Cape. There's just a lot of ways to continue to outlive and outlast those Oricorios. At most they're at 90. Yes, they're running heals, but like they're still losing 20 and possibly 40. And so you see lightning come up, you throw the Rocky Helmet on there, and you're feeling pretty good about your active spot, especially with these in the back. But name of the game with this deck is consistency. It has been consistent since it's been introduced, and it continues to be consistent, which means people will choose it, rely on it, and unfortunately do well with it as well. So if you're looking into this early climb, especially as people are like experimenting or trying out new decks, there's nothing wrong with calling this deck good old reliable, because that's really what this is. Up next, we have this newcomer coming in, really taking advantage of this Shiinotic, which is really cool. And for those of you who don't know, we can like zoom in on here so that way you can see it. But it's the new Shiinotic from this newest set, where its ability, once during your turn, you may put a random Pokemon from your deck into your hand. So essentially, this is just a deck thinner, and since it's colorless, you're just able to attack for 2 energy for 40. That's not what you're really trying to do. You're really just trying to get this Illuminate going and drawing those in, because once you're able to do that, you're then able to really just build out the rest of this, right? Like your Cosmog, you get one card here. You're always going to be starting off with one of your basics, so you can get this in every single turn you're drawing a Pokemon card. And because you're drawing the Pokemon card, you're getting that much closer to a rare candy. Because you're getting that much closer to a red. You're getting that much closer to a Mars. You're getting that much closer to a Pokeball or a Sabrina, right? Like each and every single turn that you draw a Pokemon card, you're essentially drawing 2 cards per turn instead of just 1. And getting through your deck much faster than your opponent means that you have more tools and much more maneuverability in response to what's happening on the board, and that is awesome. So Gilio was the top deck that folks ranked with last meta. So Galeo Skarmory, and now, like rare candy, 2 energy, 120 attack. People felt very comfortable with it, and now you can get into this much faster and much more consistently as well too. And 120 is a lot. 120 is a lot of health to deal damage to. 180 is a lot of health to get through. So this is coming out. We're starting to see. I'm seeing a lot of this being played in the 3 tournaments that we've seen, and like I talked about in the beginning. And this is starting to make a breakthrough, and we're gonna continue to monitor it and see if this is coming up as one of the top decks to contend with. We mentioned this before about good old reliable. Here's another deck that does that, is your Charizard Incineroar EX. This version is choosing to opt out of having your Torracat in here, but usually it's just kind of with the one piece just jumping in, so that way you can Fire Fang and go from there. But it's your Charizard EX. You stoke or you Fire Fang, so the burns you build up to your 180, or you stoke, you get it to your 150, you start attacking, you Lily up, so that way these can stay healthy for whatever you need. The repel here is kind of nice, just so that we can get a clean hit from anything else that's maybe hiding in the back, in case you just want to go for those one quick knockouts or just to secure a win for yourself. But overall, you keep your Iono, you keep your Pokemon communication for the consistencies of for your draws, but there's really not much to be said about this deck instead of just like, you know, energy, power, and like these two mons just deliver big hits in this fire archetype. Another rendition, however, of the Charizard EX deck is this inclusion of Wigglytuff, and there was some spiciness with this being one of the decks to play around with when Charizard EX was first introduced in Shining Revelry, but you know, we didn't have rare candy in that instance, so you know, it kind of like, oh, we can heal, we can get away with this idea that we have to get hit first and then we go from that. Now, with you being able to do rare candy and take less damage and take less hits in order to get into your full 5 energy for Steam Artillery, a 2 Wigglytuffs healing 40 energy per turn, a giant cape being able to bring you to 200, you're getting a little low, you hit a Lily, you hit a Pokemon Center Lady. It's the sustain for this is really good, and so when all you really need to do is just hit hard with your Charizard EX, you're doing really well, and Wigglytuff can be used if you're running into Oricorios. So overall, you're letting your Charizard, you're like all in on Charizard EX, and you're using your Wigglytuffs, your Lilies, your Pokemon Center Ladies. And Pokemon Center Lady is a good addition. I like the 1-on-1 split here because the Lily can be for your Charizard EX and your Pokemon Center Lady can be for Wigglytuffs. If there's like any weird things, like Dark Rise or anything else like that, that you can just heal in the back to ensure that they don't Cyrus you later. And that's really kind of like the point of this, is just try to save these and keep them out of that Cyrus range as much as you can. And then last but not least is this new poison type with Guzzlord here. You put in the poison barb on your Guzzlord EX, you're throwing your Lucamines on here, so whichever Pokemon that you start off with is really kind of just building that up here. Grindcore being a team or Rocket Grunt, so you don't really need that as a supporter in here, but forcing your opponent to lose out on the energy that they've tried to retrieve while also being poisoned, while also having 170 health is a lot of just health to get through, and then stacking these Nihilegos, probably just butchering that still, but that's gonna be okay. But that is if you have both of these out, that is a minus 30 per turn, and that's just so much. That's just so much to deal with on top of the attacks that's happening here. If you lose one of these, Lucamine immediately brings you up to 4, so you can hit them with your tyrannical hole for that 120 clean out from there as well too. So overall, really strong deck. Poison has really been, or is really creeping out to be one of the premier status conditions because of all the supports that we're starting to see from it, right? Like with this, like more poison, and I'm curious to see if they do anything with like sleep or with burn. Could you imagine like if your opponent's asleep and then you have an ability like Dream Eater where you're restoring, they lose 10 health, or you move 10 damage from yourself onto your opponent, you know, like that kind of thing, right? Like, or you're taking away there, because right, like that's the ability there. So like little things like that, it'd be really cool to see if that comes out the case. But yeah, y'all, this is the metagame. This is where we're in. And like, it'd be really interesting to see where we're at next week, see if these decks stay the same, what continues to branch out and be really strong and be really good here. But as always, y'all, if y'all enjoyed the content, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell button, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.